everyone. Ladies, gentlemen, gentle thems, gentle fluids, gentle beings, and however else you may happen to identify. Welcome to the battlefield. I am Rustam, the hero of the Persian Empire, reborn in the modern day to battle evil on the internet. Welcome to the new Persian Empire. Tonight, we are once again combating the forces of insomnia. And we are doing it, naturally, Parsi style, with some reading of old Parsi stories, mythologies, and whatnot. Which is exactly why I have, as always, the Shahnameh of Ferdowsi right here. The lovely book full of Persian myths. And today, we're reading a story that's a little bit less mythic, but also quite impressive. As it says in the title, we're reading the story of me. The story of Rustam. As you might know, as I always say, I am the hero of the Persian Empire. But my tales were written in the Shahnameh as well. So, now I'm going to read to you the stories of my birth, and perhaps a few stories of my exploits. Perhaps at the end of it all, I'll get to explain how I was reborn in the modern day. But for now, we're just going to have some fun and enjoy a nice book. I really hope that you guys enjoy this as much as I do. Or, well, as much as I will. It's always nice to sit down and open up an old photo album. And for me, I guess this is kind of like that, isn't it? Anyways, let's begin. Chapter 82. Description of Rustam's birth. The free cypress, Rudaba, soon progressed in pregnancy and withered away. She was always in sorrow and agony, and shed tears of blood on account of the abnormal burden she carried. Her abdomen enlarged and her body became heavy. Her pink complexion turned pale yellow. She felt it was a living death for her. She cried to her mother Sindukt that she was not able to bear the burden. It seemed to her as if a stone was tied to her body, or that she was carrying a mass of iron. Sindukt shed tears whenever she witnessed her daughter's miserable plight. As the time for delivery approached, she became uneasy and sleepless. One day, Rudapa became unconscious. There was hue and cry in Zal's palace. Sindukt became so mad with grief that she scratched her cheeks and tore her musk-scented hair in despair. When news reached Dastan, Zal, he hurried to Rudaba's bedside, hit his hand and plucked out his hair in grief. All the slaves of the palace did likewise. That's rather messed up. Then Zal suddenly remembered Simurgh's feather and reassured Sindukt. He brought out a censer and lighted fire in it, and held Simurgh's feather in it for a moment. the firmament suddenly became dark, and Simurgh appeared and landed. Zal thanked him profusely and praised him. Simurgh told Zal not to worry, because Rudaba was destined to give birth to an extraordinary boy who would grow up to be the strongest man of his time like Sam. He revealed that God willed that he would not be born from below in the ordinary manner, but in a novel manner. He advised Zal to get a razor-sharp dagger and to send for a clever surgeon. Meanwhile, Rudaba was to be drugged with wine. The surgeon would then cut open her abdomen and take out the baby without her feeling the slightest pain, although she would be drenched with blood. The cut portion would then be stitched up. Zal was advised to cast off fear and nervousness, and to fetch a certain herb, and to crush it, and mix it with milk and musk. The mixture was to be dried in a shady place, and then rubbed into the stitched wound, which would give her relief from pain. Simurgh's feather was then to be passed over the wound. Simurgh plucked out a feather from his body, gave it to Zal, and flew away. Zal carried out Simurgh's instructions. The surgeon came, drugged Rudaba, cut open her abdomen, manipulated the baby's head, and brought it out safely. The baby was tall, had red hairs, and a red face. Everyone was surprised, for no one had known or heard of previously any baby being born in this manner. The world's first Caesarean section. And it wasn't for Caesar. It was for me. Rudaba lay unconscious for a day and a night under the effect of the wine. When she opened her eyes, she talked to Sindukt. The attendants showered gold coins and pearls on her, and thanked God for her recovery. The baby was shown to her. He was so huge that at the first day of his life, he seemed as if he was 1 year old. When she saw her baby, she shouted, "Rustam, I am delivered." The baby was therefore named Rustam. Zal and Sindukt were very happy on seeing the child. They sent for clever artisans who made a lifelike statue of the boy sitting on a horse, with a lance in one hand and reins of the horse in another. The statue was then sent to Sam through an express camel courier. There were rejoicings in Zabulistan and Kabulistan. Merab gave alms to the poor in Kabul. In Zabul, the rich and the poor participated side by side without any distinction. When Sam saw Rustam's lifelike image, he became very happy and remarked that the boy resembled him very much. He showered silver coins over the messenger and celebrated the event in his domain of Sagsar and Mazandran. A week later, in response to Zal's message, he first praised God. Then, praising Zal, he exhorted him to look after Rustam very carefully. He said that he had always prayed to God that he may remain alive to see Zal's offspring. Zal felt very happy on receiving Sam's reply. 10 wet nurses were engaged to give milk to Rustam. When Rustam grew old enough to discard breast milk, he ate food normally eaten by 5 adults. When he reached the age of 8, he was as tall as a stately cypress. It seemed as if he was another Sam. Precocious little thing, wasn't I? Quite the yawn. I don't know why. I guess even I'm getting a bit sleepy. It is to be expected. We are fighting off insomnia after all. It seems the fight goes well. Chapter 83. Sam comes to see Rustam. When Sam heard that Rustam had grown up to be an extraordinary specimen of knighthood, even at that tender age, he was seized with an overpowering desire to see his grandson. He took his troops toward Zabulistan. When Zal came to know this, he set out with his troops in company with Merab and his forces to welcome Sam. Rustam was made to sit on a golden throne, fixed on the back of a stately elephant, and was wearing a crown. He carried a shield, bow, and arrow. Merab and Zal rode in front of the elephant. When Sam saw the most prominent figure of the elephant from a distance, he halted his troops and organized them in double file. Zal and Merab dismounted. All the veterans who had served with Sam touched the ground with their heads. Sam was very happy to see his son and grandson. He spoke to Rustam and wished him a long and prosperous life, and was full of praise for his noble bearing and magnificent physique, and exclaimed that no praise can be greater than the fact that nobody in the world had come out of his mother's womb in such an extraordinary manner. Rustam bowed low and thanked Sam. He said that he was merely a branch of that tree of which Sam happened to be the trunk, and promised that he would never waste his time in gourmandizing, drinking, and idling away. His pleasure in life would be his horse, saddle, battle armor, bow and arrow, by means of which he vowed to make all tyrants lick dust. Indeed, all tyrants should lick dust. Since he resembled Sam's features, he hoped that he would acquire Sam's characteristics of strength, courage, and doughtiness. Doughtiness? Whatever that is. With this preamble, Rustam got down from the elephant and rushed into Sam's arms. Sam took Rustam's hand in his and kissed his forehead and eyes. They then went into the palace and spent a month in revelry and celebrations. Zal and Rustam sat on either side of Sam, in whose crown was stuck the feather of the propitious bird Huma. Sam kept on admiring Rustam's magnificent physique, and silently invoked God's blessings on his grandson every time he looked at him. He remarked to Zal that in the last 100 generations, nobody in their family was born in such an extraordinary manner. He said that Simurg deserved all praise and gratitude for God having made him the means of Rustam's safe birth. They then sat down to drink wine freely. Sam's health was toasted, followed by that of Zal. Merab drank so much that he imagined there was none like him in the world. In the flush of drunkenness, he good-humouredly boasted that he did not care for Zal-e-Zar nor for Sam. With the help of Rustam, his horse and sword, he said that he would revive the cult of Zahak, his ancestor. Since all this was uttered in a spirit of burlesque and bravado, under the influence of liquor, Sam and Zal felt amused and laughed heartily. Sam at last left Zabul. Zal and Rustam accompanied him for one stage of the journey as a matter of courtesy. At the time of separation, Sam's eyes became moist. He knew that age was fast gaining upon him, and advised Zal always to be just, reverent towards the rulers of Iran, to prefer wisdom to wealth, never to stain his hands with evil deeds, and always to walk in the ways of God. He exhorted Zal to remember that nobody remains forever in this world, so one should never be a hypocrite, and should never stoop to do evil. Zal and Rustam were so overcome with emotion that they accompanied Sam for 3 stages of the journey, and then returned to Zabul. There's nothing quite like hanging with Grandpa, is there? Chapter 84. Rustam kills the white elephant. One day Zal and Rustam were taking drinks in the palace garden along with some friends. Zal instructed Rustam to present robes and steeds to some select knights. After Rustam had done so, the party gave over. Zal and Rustam withdrew to their bedrooms. Rustam had just begun to sleep when he was awoken by a loud din outside. Zal's white elephant, being in a state of heat, had broken loose from its stable and was destroying everything in its path. When Rustam heard this, he picked up his grandfather's mace and wanted to rush out. But the sentries blocked his way out of fear of Zal, for the night was dark and an elephant in heat was on the loose. Rustam was annoyed. He boxed the head and neck of the chief sentry, and proceeded to do likewise to the other sentries, but they thought discretion to be the better part of valor, and ran away. He broke open the closed door with a blow of his fist, and rushed towards the heated elephant and uttered a war cry. The elephant came charging at him with its trunk lifted. Rustam struck one blow on the elephant's head with its mace. The elephant at once became groggy and fell down. Rustam then went back and slept soundly as if nothing had happened. When morning dawned, Zal was informed of Rustam's exploit. Zal could hardly believe his eyes that his war elephant, which had broken the ranks of so many enemy forces before, was no match for Rustam. He sent for Rustam, kissed him on the forehead and eyes, and declared that he had no equal in this world. It was Zal's desire that before Rustam's fame could spread far and wide among the enemy nations, Rustam should proceed to a mighty fortress atop Mount Sepand in order to avenge the killing of Nariman, Sam's father. The fortress covered such a vast area that there were fields and water springs, and people of all professions, and the wherewithals of life, so that nobody inside was dependent for anything from outside. The fort was inaccessible except for a single passage winding its way upwards to the gate. Nariman had laid siege to it for more than a year without success. At last, a rock hurled by the besieged from the top of the wall fell on Nariman, killing him. His forces, becoming leaderless, returned. Sam, who had mourned his father's death for a week, then laid siege to the fortress for a number of years, but failed to gain entry into the fort, for nobody came out all these years. He was forced to return empty-handed and disappointed, without avenging his father's death. Zal advised Rustam to lead a trading caravan going to the fortress, disguising himself as the driver of a camel, loaded with common salt, which was a rare commodity inside the fortress. When the people inside would come to know that the salt had been brought, everyone, young and old, were bound to come out to welcome the trader in salt. Got to love the days when war crimes weren't illegal. And when I say that, it's a joke. That's honestly kind of messed up. Goodness. That was quite a loud yawn. I wonder if I'm going to be yawning all stream. I hope not. Perhaps I should have gotten some coffee or something. Well, I have my water bottle right here, so that will have to do. Looks like the ads are over now. Chapter 85. Rustam goes to Mount Sepand and captures the fortress. Rustam made all the necessary preparations and concealed his mace in the load of salt. He took with him a few hand-picked veteran knights, all disguised as traders, with their weapons though concealed inside the camel loads. When the caravan reached the foot of Mount Sepand, the sentry spotted them from the watchtower and rushed to his chieftain, saying that a caravan had arrived with presumably loads of salt. The chieftain sent a man out to find what the caravan was trading in. Upon Rustam telling him that the camels were laden with salt, the man went back and conveyed the welcome tidings to the chieftain. The unsuspecting chieftain was very happy to hear this, and ordered that the gate be opened to allow the caravan to enter. As Rustam approached the narrow gate, the inhabitants came out and welcomed him. Rustam kissed the ground in the presence of the chieftain, praised him lavishly, and gave many bags of salt to him as a gift, which the chieftain gratefully accepted. When Rustam entered the bazaar inside the fort with his caravan, everyone, men, women, and children, flocked around him to purchase salt. Some gave cloth in exchange, others gave gold and silver. When the night became pitch dark, Rustam made preparations with his followers to sally forth upon the inmates of the citadel. He made a beeline for the chieftain's residence, followed by his companions. The commander of the fort grappled with Rustam, who laid him low with a blow on the head from his mace. A regular battle ensued in the pitch darkness, and Rustam caused many a head to roll by expert wielding of the mace, sword, and lasso. When daylight dawned, not a single inhabitant was found to escape. Rustam's followers went about killing each and every one they encountered. Meanwhile, Tahamtan, Rustam noticed a room made of granite, hewn out of the rock and having an iron door. He struck it open with a blow of his mace and entered the strong room, which was filled, right up to its dome, with dinars, gold coins. He remarked in amazement to his companions that it appeared as if no gold was left in any mine, and no pearl was left in the ocean, judging by the enormous stores of these in the strong room. Still though, that's some pretty excessive war crimes. In one verse it says there were children in there, and then the next it says they killed everyone. That is messed up. Really messed up. Chapter 86. Rustam writes a letter to Zal about his conquest of Fort Mount Sapand. Sapand. So many ways to pronounce that. Sepand. So many different ways to pronounce that single word. Astonishing, isn't it? Rustam wrote a letter to his father, conveying the glad tidings of the successful accomplishment of his assigned mission. At the onset, he praised God Almighty. Then he invoked God's blessings upon Zal, who was the most powerful knight of his age, the maker of kings, the conqueror of kingdoms, the protector of knights, and the backbone of the people of Iran, the holder aloft of the Kavayani standard. He then described how he carried out Zal's orders and conquered Fort Mount Sapand, with all of its treasures, including 500,000 ass loads of pure gold and silver, and countless costly textile materials and carpets. He wanted to know what Zal would like him to do further. Ass loads. What a word. What a word. Zal was so happy to receive the good news that he felt rejuvenated once again. Chapter 87. Zal-e-Zar's reply to Rustam's letter. Zal, in his reply to Rustam, praised God and gave vent to his unqualified happiness that Rustam, by his supreme valor, had retrieved the name, honor, and prestige of Nariman. His soul must indeed be happy over it. He asked Rustam to return immediately because he was very anxious to see him. Zal said that he was sending thousands of camels for Rustam to load with the countless treasures he had acquired. He ordered Rustam to set fire to the fortress before his return, to avenge the death of Nariman. Rustam selected gold coins, swords, helmets, beirs, B-E-I-R-S, that's how it's spelled. So no, I don't think he sent any sign. Bears, pearls, jewels, Chinese silk cloth, and sent them to Zal. Before returning, he did set the fire to the fortress. Zal made all preparations to record a fitting welcome to his son. And set out with that purpose amidst the blowing of trumpets, clanging of cymbals, and the ringing of bells. Rustam praised Zal as soon as he had set his eyes on him. goodness. I think I'm a bit more tired than I thought. I'm nodding off in my chair. I think I'm going to need a second or two. Hmm? Hmm. Okay, so let's see. Rustam set fire to the fortress, went home. Zal welcomed him with blowing trumpets, clanging cymbals, and ringing bells. Rustam praised Zal as soon as he set his eyes upon him. Zal pressed him to his bosom, and ordered that coins and jewels be showered upon him. They then went to the palace of Sam, where Rustam fell at Rudaba's feet. Rudaba kissed her son's chest and shoulders, and uttered words of love. Chapter 88. Zal's letter to Sam. Zal conveyed the glad tidings to Sam, along with lots of presents. Zal was very happy, and presented the messenger with a charger and a robe of honor. Like a car or a phone charger, or is that a kind of horse? What does it mean in those days to present someone with a charger? I'm not quite sure I remember. I'm getting really sleepy. In his reply to Zal, Sam mentioned that a lion's son is bound to become as valorous as the father. Zal felt very happy to receive such a compliment from Sam. Chapter 89. Minochair's advice to his son and his death. When Minochair became 120 years old, he made preparations to bid farewell to this world. Astrologers came to him and said that his days were numbered and that he should make preparations to meet his Creator. Oh boy. The just king, accordingly, sent for his knights and advisers, and revealed to them all the secret thoughts of his mind. He then sent for his son Navzad, and gave him plenty of advice. declared that the crown of royalty was just a myth and a chimera, hence one should not dream of wearing it forever. He revealed that he had reached the age of 120, having weathered many a storm, and having profited by Faridun's advice. This gave him peace of mind and a sense of fulfillment. He had succeeded in avenging Edoc's assassination at the hands of Salman Tur, as desired by Faridun. He had populated many cities and erected many fortresses, but that was all a thing of the past, and now it appeared to him as if he had not been in this world at all. After all these exertions, he was handing over his crown and throne to Navzar, in the same manner as he had received it from Faridun. He advised his son not to swerve from the godly path of rectitude. He predicted that Moses would reveal himself as God's prophet, and advised his son not to be rude to Moses, but to listen carefully to what the prophet would say. Under no circumstances was Navzar to disobey the commands of God, to whom we are indebted for all that is good and evil in this world. He then foretold that Tudanians would invade and play havoc with Iran, and Navzar himself would suffer much at the hands of Pashang's son, Afrasiab, who would sit on the throne of Iran. He advised Navzar to seek, in those difficult times, the help of Sam, Zal, and the latter's valiant and young and youthful son, who is destined to lay Turan to waste, and to avenge the wrongs done to Navzar. As Minochair was saying this, tears started flowing on his face. He was not having any sickness or pain, yet he drew a cold breath, and the Kayani eyes closed forever. Ferdowsi here advises his readers not to love this world inordinately, because this world is like a field full of color and fragrance. Our life is like water. We are the produce of the field, and death the reaper. Just as the produce of the field is meant to be reaped, we too are destined to die, whether we be good or bad. We are continuously riding fast and furiously on two steeds, one white and the other black, day and night, heading for another world, just as a caravan moves on from one place to another. Someone happens to be in the forefront and some other behind, depending upon the stage which one has reached in the course of his journey to the next world. Ferdowsi finally advises that it is useless to grieve at the prospect of leaving this world, since this world has never given or proven faithful to anyone. Chapter 90. Navzar reigned for 7 years, his straying away from Minochair's ideals, and Sam's bringing him back on the path of rectitude. goodness. With the way I keep saying barely awake, I get the feeling that I might need to wind the stream down a bit sooner than I would have predicted. I apologize, everyone. It seems I'm a bit more fatigued than I realized. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to have to end the stream about now. I know it's only been an hour, but it seems that I've put myself to sleep. I want to thank everyone who showed up and came out to watch and to listen to me read the story of my younger days. My younger days. I appreciate it a lot. Anyways, let's find someone to raid before I pass out, shall we? Or actually, perhaps we simply ought to just wrap it up. Yes, I think it might be best to just wrap it up simply. Thank you all for watching. I'm sorry that it was so short. I will see you all tomorrow for more Sonic Frontiers. And hopefully I'm a bit more awake then. Farewell, everyone. Until next time. Dismissed, soldiers.